Hi guys, so what I have in front of me is our assignment, our worksheet for this week about solving systems of equations using substitution or elimination. So those two methods are very straightforward, right as it sounds. You're going to substitute an equation into the other equation in order to solve. Elimination, you're going to eliminate a variable in order to solve. So when we look at this, I'm going to do number 2 as an example because it's a little more complicated than number 1. As you see in number 1, I've already got y equals this. So all you'd have to do is take this part that y is equal to and substitute it in for y. In number 2's case, I'm going to have to do some moving around in order to get that y equals or x equals. Now I see that y is all by itself in that second equation, so I'm going to manipulate my second equation so that it can be y equals something. Okay. By manipulate, I mean I need to move this 4x by subtracting, and then I'm left with y equals -6 minus 4x. Okay. Now I'm ready to substitute. This y equals -6 minus 4x can now substitute and replace this y in that first equation. So now I rewrite and say I have 6x plus 3 parentheses, -6 minus 4x equals -12. Okay, parentheses just so that you remember that you have to distribute whatever coefficient is attached to your variable into the whole equation. So now I have 6x plus a -18. So when we plus a negative, it's really just minusing that 18. I'm going to replace that with a minus. -18 and 3 times 4, but we've got a -4, so minusing 12x equals -12. Now I just go ahead, combine like terms, and move my 18 over to solve for x. Okay, so what I'm doing here is putting these two together. When I have a +6 and I'm subtracting away 12, I'm going to get a -6. This 18, I have to add it to both sides to get rid of it. And so I'm left with this -6x on this side equals 18 added to a -12 is going to be a +6. And then I just divide out my -6. I've got x equals a -1. Okay, you're halfway done now. Just take this -1 and substitute it into that equation that we created with my y equals, because that's going to be your easiest bet. So I've got y is equaling -6 minus 4 times a -1. Okay, order of operations. Remember to do your parentheses first. There's nothing to combine inside of that parentheses, but we have that multiplication that should come before any addition or subtraction. So -6 and -4 times a -1, you get a +4. So y equals -2. That's it. Now you've got your answer, -1, -2. For elimination, let's look at number 3 over here. Okay, I see 5x plus 4y equals -25 and 5x minus 4y equals 15. What you want to look for in elimination is numbers that are the same on the variables but opposite sign. So for example, this +4y and -4y are going to be key for my elimination. Okay, so if I were to add these two equations together, kind of like that. I have my 5x plus 5x, and that's going to give me 10x. And if I've got 4y minus 4y, those equal 0, so they cancel. And then I'm just left with negative 25 plus 15, giving me a negative 10. So now I've got this really simple equation of 10x equals negative 10. I'm just going to divide by 10, and x equals negative 1 again. Now that's the elimination step. All you have to do is plug it in, sort of like the substitution step, into one of your equations. And I'm going to use the first one, 5, negative 1, because that was my x, plus 4y equals negative 25. This becomes a negative 5 plus 4y equals negative 25. Now I'm ready to carry over any numbers. I want to add this 5. Got 4y equals negative 20, and then divide by my 4. Y equals negative 5 in this case. Okay, that's your elimination. Let's look at a little more difficult elimination one. Let's look at number 8. So noticing how I don't have any numbers that match up in the way that I want it to, because they're not the same number and they're not opposite signs. So I'm going to have to do some manipulation by either multiplying or dividing one or maybe both of the equations in order to get what I want. Now, in our Zoom meeting, what we did was I wanted to cancel out my y's. And in order to get those to be the same number in opposite sign, I'm going to multiply my first equation by 7. And then I'm going to multiply my second equation by a negative 2. And I'm doing that negative so that I can get the bottom to be all negative and cancel out the top with that 14 that I get. So, and remembering that when we multiply the equations, it has to multiply to all of the numbers there. So 4x times 7 gives me 28x plus 14y equals 8 times 7 is 56. Now my 6x times a negative 2, I'm going to get negative 12x minus 14y, and my negative 20 will cancel out with my negative 2 and give me a positive 40. Okay. Adding these two equations together, straight down, I've got 28 and negative 12, so that will give me a positive 16x. 14y and negative 14y cancel each other, so there's 0 y's. And then if I add 56 and 40, I get 96. Now all I have to do is divide by 16, and x equals 6. Okay. Now I just take this x equals 6 and plug it into whichever equation I want. In this case, I want to use my first equation because the number that's attached to x is smaller than the second equation. So 4 times 6 plus 2y equals 8. I've got 4 times 6 is 24 plus 2y equals 8. Subtract out that 24. 2y equals 16. Oh, negative 16, by the way, because the 24 is a larger negative. And divide by 2. And y equals negative 8 as your final answer. And that's how you do elimination. Okay. The next several problems is choose which one you want to do. So looking at numbers 9 and 10, which is going to be easier for you, substitution or elimination, and then explain why that was easier. And then we've got a couple of word problems. If you have any questions about the word problems, make sure to give me an email or send me an email, or you can stop by on Friday for office hours at 9 a.m. All right, good luck.